We still have hope.
Hello. So Oath season has just finished and I've decided to make a brief account review. Just showcasing some of the units that I've used the most, how I've built them and how I've drafted them. So this season I think I've been playing a lot of Lyra and Friends. So use Lyra paired with C. Armin, ML Landy and C. Lilius or other standard units. This is by far like the most consistent and stable team if you're going turn 2. So here's my build on Lyra, 260 speed, and with this artifact she's around 30.4k HP in game, so she can really pack a very strong hit when her S3 is available. So usually you can try your best to just protect her and make sure that she gets her S3, so her partner will be a very strong mitigator like C. Armin. So in terms of speed, you want your Lyra to be around twice as fast as your C. Armin. So I have my C. Armin at 129 here. So this is because this way your Lyra can actually take 2 turns before your C. Armin takes a turn. So being able to lap with the Lyra means that you have an extra chance to choose from, like whether you want to just S2 and cleanse on your Lyra's first round, or when she's like up again on the second round. That way you can be a bit more flexible depending on whether there's debuffs like silence or stuns on your C. Armin. Then you can choose when to cleanse it. That way you can guarantee that your C. Armin can actually get her S3 off. So C. Armin, you want her to be really high HP, ideally 30k, but I'm still trying to farm protection gear. Alright, and then Navy Captain Landy, I think we need no further introduction for her, just a very strong meta unit. And even with all these new counters for her that's been released, she is still one of the best units in the game, especially if she's countering a lot. And next off, another unit that you can consider using with her is C. Lilius. So my build is a bit more like tanky for like longer fights, standard fights. But if you're playing like a really fast style, very aggressive, you can build her with a ton of effectiveness, like 200-ish, with Circus Fantasia artifact for the extra effectiveness. That way she can control Ocean Breeze Luluka, because people usually build their OBL with like 200 to 250 ER. Alright, and some more units that I've been using with standard play include Lionheart Shermia. So ideally you would want a bit more crit damage, but this is basically a very strong and solid build on her. And Unbound Knight Arrowwell can also be really strong if you are trying to protect your light element allies, like your Nako or your C. Lilius. So if you're going with like a light element team, you can put her in, but also be wary that she's a bit weak to debuffs, because she relies a lot on her escort to help mitigate the damage. In terms of build, you want her as tanky as possible with 100 F-res and 50 effectiveness, just to complement her effectiveness buff so she can actually strip your opponents with her stuns and S1. Okay, another unit, Arden, is basically just like anti-cleave or like fighting dark units in standard teams. Ooh, just changed date. Alright. Yeah, so fighting dark units like AU Fiend, or basically anti-cleave against like Ran or ML, what's it called? ML Roana, yes. So I haven't been using her a lot because she never evades for me, so it's a bit annoying, a bit tilting to use. I like consistency more than RNG. Yeah. Another unit that I've been using a lot by the end of the season after she's released is this one, Sea Phantom Politis. Even though she usually fits like aggressive teams better, she can also be used in standard play, just because she's such a versatile unit overall and basically very strong and can control. She can pull your highest attack ally, so if you're playing like ML Landy, she can pull ML Landy and help you get the fighting spirit quicker. So she has my fastest set of gear on 303. It's not like ridiculously fast. I'm pretty sure like a lot of emperors and other players got higher speed than this, but basically you want to put your fastest gear on her and she can be very oppressive, especially against like slower opponents. Right, so we can just start from the beginning here, at the top here. So we've just went through the units that I've used the most. Now we can go through some other like units I've built just to pick on the way as I try and counter the opponent's picks or try and make my draft. So I haven't been using Hua Yang. She needs 5k attack and I find myself not having the appropriate gear to build her. Lilia's never used, built her last season to counter Lua, but Lua has fallen off this season, so... Alright, next off Janua. I always pre-ban him just because he is just like way too strong to deal with, especially when picked in a very aggressive comp, especially with like ML Politis and all that, and he just has too much damage potential, and sometimes when I try to control him down I get 15%ed, which can be really tilting, so I just ban him. And another reason is because I play Laya a lot, who is a green unit, so you don't want to fight Janua with that. Alright, now cool, very strong like 4th or 5th pick, especially if you find your opponent running low speed or a lot of counters, or say like buff heavy comps, then you can pick her in your 4th or 5th pick, and she often is a force ban for your opponent. If not, she can just, you know, just hard control the entire opponent's team on her own. Ideally, you want her 280 speed plus, 280 to 290 speed. That would consistently outspeed like the second fastest unit on your opponent's team. But I'm running out of speed gear, and this seems to work okay. Also, a lot of times she just gets banned. Politis is just for anti-cleave. My gear on her is really bad, so I haven't been picking her a lot, but usually if you pick her well in anti-cleave, then she can still pop off, or she would like get banned. Lethe, haven't picked her much because of the prevalence of like injuries and high tempo tank busters this season, and I haven't found a lot of occasions that I can use her, but I guess some of the times she can be a good 4th or 5th pick, just to force a ban if your opponent is not running anything that can counter her, and they're running like slower tempo, lower damage those comps. Elvira is very like specific in terms of like where you can pick her, so you can only pick her into like Lionheart Shamia, and sometimes I would say a Euphine. Occasionally you can pick her into ML Bologna, but ML Bologna actually doesn't rely too much on her S2. Like without S2, ML Bologna can still work because her S3 still does a lot of damage, so sometimes it's not appropriate to pick Elvira into ML Bologna. And then in terms of ML Landy, the better way to go is just to go Bibless. She can like consistently, or not consistently, like it depends on if your opponent's ML Landy counters, but then if they do counter, she can just lock them down every turn with like waves of debuffs that just is often overwhelming even if they have cleanse. My Ran is quite slow, so usually you want your Ran to be like 310 above, yeah. But I don't have a lot of like speed DPS build, and I just built him to act as like a force ban, or if like I'm sure that my opponent are not outspeeding and they're going quite squishy and aggressive, and I would use him. Other times, he's really not my style, so I just don't draft him if I'm just playing like within my style, instead of like using him as a counter pick. I would never really pick him. So Lua fallen off a lot after Laya has been released. Also, like she's not as good as like say ML Politis or some other openers. So yeah, it's unless you can build her really fast, I wouldn't say like she's meta. Right, Arya, I built her to counter Janua when he was first released, but then I soon realized that there's still a 50% chance for Janua to hit her, and if Janua's S3 lands, it penetrates defense and Arya usually gets severely injured or even die, especially if the Janua has good support or immunity. Then I can't land this hit chance debuff. Ida, I don't use her. Elena, I built her for countering AoE cleave, so like with like Ran or with the Garden Lidica. So those kind of units that's got AoE, you can pick Elena into that. Usually you build her around 250 speed with this artifact, good ER. Then in that case she can just lap and take a turn before the opponent's DPS does. Then you can apply the invincibility. Laya, we've talked about that. Rimuru. Right, I'm on an ER build. I think ER is quite crucial on him because people often have like openers or debuffers that goes before him and can just lock him down and dead control him if you don't have ER on him. Usually you pick him into Green Lilius. He is the best counter to Green Lilius in my opinion. But usually when people go Green Lilius, they often have like something like say ML Lilius or some openers. With this artifact, I've got 240 ER and it's enough against most openers. So I've been able to just resist most of the pushbacks or controls, and I've been able to just pop their Green Lilius on turn 1, and I've got him on some crit chance because I want him to be able to do damage even when his S3 is not available. Zahak, just evasion counter. My gear on him is quite bad. Senya is anti-cleave tech, but relies a bit on RNG on the on the crit resistance. So I haven't been really picking her a lot. Sorry. So that's because like there are a lot of like better anti-cleave units than her. Alright, this one I never use. Celine, I think after the buff she will be really good, but if not, she's still a really strong single target DPS. You want to maximize her damage potential while keeping just a little bit of bulk, okay, so not too much. Never overdo the bulk on her. You want her to be able to kill any squishy units on her S2, or even like on tankier units like say MO, Bellona or something like that. Like you can still severely injure them or like kill them with your S2 and S3 combined. Alright, Midnight Gala, 2 builds. You either go really high speed like 290 or something, or you do something like mine, 250, but with like high damage as much as you can to just bust tanks. Festina I don't use, but she's a very stable and consistent Soul Weaver, so if you have spare gear you can just build her. Alright, Ocean Breeze Luluka, in my opinion, is one of the most versatile soul weavers out there. You want 100 effectiveness to land debuffs, strip, and all that. So she can actually be used as sort of like a debuffer into teams that don't have cleanse. For example, some people may draft ML Lilius with ML Landy and Arrowwell. Then Ocean Breeze Luluka is actually a really good counter into those combos. Roana, you just want as much bulk as you can, and she just does her things, not much. Alright, LQC, I don't pick her. Yeah, you can tell by the gear it's not really that good. So if you want to build her, you either go 250 speed, maximize damage, penetration set, Benimaru's Tachi, aiming to one-shot on dark units on turn 1, or you go maybe a bit slower on this artifact, and then more damage. A Tywin, I think he is a very strong knight actually, especially against debuff heavy comps. There were games that I didn't have a cleanser, but I got him on my side, and the opponents got sometimes even 2 debuffers, but then they're still not able to lock my team down. People often underestimate how strong a Tywin is. When he's enraged, he can actually do a lot. Even if he can't S3, he can still ignore ER on this S1 and just hard control your opponent, even if it's just the S1 available. Bellion is just anti-cleave, not much to say here, except that you would want your Elber's Sword on her, but Landy and Ayuvin got higher priorities, so if you got a third copy of that artifact you can put on her, but I don't have that. LRK has fallen off a bit, but still he's a very strong knight if you want some extra damage or an extra damage dealer on your team. Right, yep, Angel of Light. I have 2 builds. This one I never use. It's originally designed for longer fights with protection set, but I realized it's quite bad. And then this one, just really high effectiveness. I'm able to control soul weavers, and usually I use her to just lock down enemy soul weavers on turn 1 so they can't do anything to support. Then I usually pair it with some higher damage DPS to kill the opponent's main damage dealer before their soul weavers or other units can support them. But she's not too fast, so you can't pick her into aggressive or higher tempo, faster fights. But if they're going really slow, tank down, ER play, then you can consider using her. Architect like her is just a strong 4th or 5th pick as a force ban, because if your opponents don't have any CR cut or CR reduction and they are not going fast, then they really have to just ban your Leica, otherwise your Leica can just one-shot something on turn 1. Sage Bow, anti-cleave tech, usually you want him to be 260 speed, something around that range, just so he can cut against Zeo cleaves and something like that, but yeah, I don't have the appropriate gear for that, so usually I have to wait one more turn before he's pushed up to the top, but he still works. Solitaria, very strong against focus-based units like ML Shu or Ocean Breeze Luluka. Aside from that, she doesn't see much play. In terms of gear, you don't have to worry too much about the gear score, just build her with some speed, some bulk, some effectiveness, making sure that she can survive and she can cycle, then she can really just do her job in those kind of scenarios. She doesn't need really top tier gear. Alright, Infinite Horizon, as much ER as you can on this one for sure. She is only strong against debuff heavy teams, if they're going the water elf girl, what's her name? I forgot. The one that's got primo gems, or basically if they're running a lot of debuffs on their teams, you can just pick her. Moon Bunny, Ideally, you want immunity set, but since I've got really high ER, I figured like it was okay for me to just go like this. You want her to be fast, a bit of survivability, some ER, and yeah, just pick her into anything that's got like 2 turns, extra turn units. Epoch, quite bad this season. I think I have never picked her. She used to be my queen, but too much injury, too much tank busters. Inferno Kawazu, a niche pick into AoE teams. Usually I use him to counter AU Fiend or ML Bellona or ML Shermia if they don't have mitigation, and I have to put a mitigation on Inferno Kawazu because he's not the tankiest. But if he's supported well, he can just take down the opponent's main DPS main win con with his S3 one shot. Alright, MA Ken, you definitely want to build him quite tanky. He can counter a lot of the meta units like AU Fiend because she has to AoE and crit you every turn, and ML Ken can also counter ML Landy, ML Shermia, so you want a lot of tankiness on him, usually 17 to 19k HP and 1.5k defense minimum. That way he can survive. Otherwise, with the high damage builds this season, it's not uncommon if you go a bit less HP or less defense. It's not uncommon that he gets one shot by a Lionheart or by a Landy S3. Alright, so make sure he has good bulk. Alright, and then 100 effect resistance with good damage. Something like this will work. Alright. Mediator Carrick, I built him on damage build because his S2 has really high multipliers, S1 as well, so he can deal quite a lot of damage on his S2, I think 8 to 9k, which is a really good compliment, especially if you draft him into cases where you can really use a bit more of that damage support. Into squishier teams, he's really useful. Alright, Strays, also just a 4-span you can pick on your 4th or 5th pick when they're going slow and tanky, not much to say here. Alright, Urban Shadow Shoe, she is very strong in this meta because there are a lot of HP scaling units like Laya, so she can really counter Laya. If you can cycle a few turns on that Laya, then that Laya can basically deal no more damage even if they got their S3. Alright, so in terms of stats, something similar to this will do. Just maximize her damage potential with your penetration set if you've got that. AU Fiend, I've just put her on a standard AU Fiend build. So this is basically the stat lines you would see on most Emperor AU Fiends. Artifacts, I think this one is better than Holy Sack because usually you really do want to be able to get more of that S1 in just to cycle, just to gain your fighting spirits up faster and finish the game faster. Alright, so if you use Holy Sack, oftentimes even after she revives, she will get killed again. Or she would get controlled if she's not getting enough fighting spirits. Rowlet, never used too many counters. Briar, just into evasion units, I suppose. I don't really use her to counter revivers. One is that revivers are not popular this season anymore, and the other thing is the most popular reviver is Destina, but she doesn't rely on just that revive. She can provide a lot of heal, a lot of push and all that, so it's not really useful to pick Briar into those teams unless you can guarantee that you're doing explosive damage and killing whoever is with Destina. Otherwise, if you're just damaging them, applying chip damage, then they can always just heal it back up before you can kill them. PCF never picked, inconsistent. Talked about the Spectre Tenebria. She's Spectre Tenebria. Not much to say there, just like when they're not having a lot of AoE, then you can just pick her. Tomoka, never used. Seal, I don't cleave, but I use him as like an anti-cleave. So if your opponent is picking Ron first pick, then you can pick Seal, just to guarantee that you get turn 1 and push the Ron back. And DDR, I always just pre-ban, but here's my build on him. And yeah, so that wraps it up for our account review. So if you've got any further questions, or if there's any other builds or anything regarding PvP that you want to know about, feel free to just leave me a comment and I'll get to it as soon as I see it. Aside from that, I would really appreciate if you can subscribe, and that it will really encourage me to make more content of this kind and put more effort into this channel. So I guess I'll see you next time then.